3 days later, the communication relays across Imperial space carried a message that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. It wasn't transmitted through the usual official channels. Instead, it appeared simultaneously on every screen, every display, every communication device in the Empire. As if the technology itself had decided to rebel, the message was simple: humanity is no longer your property. In the grand chambers of the Imperial High Council on the planet Veltaris, Supreme Chancellor Kexthal watched the reports flooding in from across the Empire with growing horror. Mining stations had gone silent. Agricultural worlds were refusing to send food shipments. Prison planets were reporting mass breakouts that seemed physically impossible. "How many worlds?" he asked his aide. 47, sir," came the reply. "All planets with significant human populations. The transformation appears to be spreading at an exponential rate." Chancellor Kexthal studied the tactical displays showing the affected systems. Red markers indicated complete communication blackouts, yellow showed reduced Imperial control, and green represented areas still under full Empire authority. The pattern was disturbing. Wherever humans had been subjected to the most brutal conditions, the transformations were happening fastest. What about the research station where this began? "Mining Station Gamma 7 has been altered, sir." The aide consulted his datapad nervously. "The humans have completely redesigned it. Our ships can't even recognize the technology anymore." Meanwhile, aboard what had once been Mining Station Gamma 7, Sarah stood in what used to be Research Bay 7. The chamber had been transformed into something that defied Imperial understanding of physics. The walls seemed to breathe with organic patterns, and the air itself sparkled with gentle currents of energy. Maria approached, carrying a cup of what appeared to be tea, though it glowed with the same golden light that had surrounded them during their awakening. "The communication arrays are working perfectly," she reported. "We're in contact with human communities on 31 worlds now. How many have completed the transformation?" Sarah asked, accepting the cup gratefully. "All of them," Anna replied, materializing through what should have been a solid wall. Her ability to phase through matter had developed remarkably over the past few days. Every human who experienced 47 minutes of peak stress under Imperial conditions has awakened. The network is growing stronger every hour. Lisa drifted down from the ceiling, her mastery of gravity manipulation allowing her to move in 3 dimensions as easily as walking. The interesting thing is how different everyone's abilities are. The mining crews developed enhanced physical capabilities and technology interfacing. The agricultural workers gained mastery over biological systems. The prisoners are the most powerful of all," Zara finished, emerging from the shadows with her usual dramatic flair. Her abilities seemed to center around stealth and infiltration, making her the perfect scout for their operations. 20 years of brutalization will do that to a species like ours. Through their shared consciousness, Sarah could feel the presence of hundreds of thousands of awakened humans across the galaxy. Each one was unique, their abilities shaped by their experiences and their individual personalities, but all connected through threads of energy that transcended space and time. Tom, the older man who had tried to protect them in the dining hall, entered the chamber. His transformation had been different from theirs, less flashy, but perhaps more profound. He had become something like a living library, able to access and process information at speeds that made Imperial computers look primitive. "The Empire is mobilizing their fleet," he reported. 17 battle groups are converging on human-controlled systems. They're planning to use orbital bombardment to contain the situation. Sarah nodded, unsurprised. They still think this is a rebellion they can crush with enough firepower. They don't understand what we've become. Maria set down her cup and walked to the chamber's center, where a complex holographic display showed the positions of every ship in the sector. "Should we prepare defenses?" "No," Sarah said quietly. "Let's show them why violence is no longer necessary." Across the galaxy, aboard the Imperial flagship Dominion's Edge, Fleet Admiral Morgath studied the tactical reports with growing frustration. His species, the Calvari, had served as the Empire's military arm for centuries. They understood warfare, strategy, and the application of overwhelming force. What they didn't understand was how entire planets could simply disappear from their sensors. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the human rebels. It's being broadcast simultaneously from all 47 affected systems." "On screen," the Admiral ordered. The display showed Sarah standing in what appeared to be a garden rather than a military command center. Behind her, other humans moved peacefully through landscapes that seemed too beautiful to exist on what had once been a mining station. "Admiral Morgath," Sarah began, somehow knowing exactly who she was addressing, "I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to demonstrate our capabilities." The Admiral leaned forward in his command chair. "Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Continue this rebellion, and we will glass every world you've contaminated." Sarah smiled sadly. "Admiral, you still don't understand what's happening here. This isn't a rebellion. Rebellions are violent, destructive events where oppressed people fight against their oppressors. What we're doing is simply leaving." "Leaving?" The Admiral's confusion was evident in his voice. "Watch," Sarah said, on the tactical display. Admiral Morgath watched in amazement as one of the human-controlled systems simply vanished, not destroyed, not evacuated, gone. The planets, the stations, the ships, everything associated with that system had disappeared from sensors as if it had never existed. "Impossible," the Admiral breathed. "Entire star systems don't just disappear. They do when the beings controlling them understand space-time manipulation at a quantum level." Tom's voice came through the transmission. Though he wasn't visible on screen, his presence was unmistakable. "Admiral, your species understands matter and energy in 3 dimensions. We've learned to work in 11. Another system vanished from the tactical display, then another. Each disappearance was accompanied by a brief flash of golden light that somehow felt warm and welcoming rather than threatening. "What are you doing to them?" Admiral Morgath demanded. Anna's voice joined the transmission. "We're taking them home, Admiral. Every human, every world, every station where our people lived and worked and suffered, we're bringing them all home to Earth." The revelation hit the Imperial command staff like a physical blow. Earth, humanity's homeworld, had been considered a primitive backwater barely worth exploiting. The idea that an advanced civilization could exist there, let alone one capable of moving entire star systems. "That's impossible," Fleet Admiral Morgath insisted. "Our surveys of Earth showed a pre-industrial civilization. No space travel, no advanced technology." Lisa's laughter filled the bridge, a sound like crystal bells ringing in perfect harmony. "Admiral, you surveyed Earth before we knew what we were capable of. Before you taught us what we could become?" On the display, Sarah gestured behind her, and the view expanded to show not just the transformed mining station, but the space around it. Where once there had been empty void, now there were dozens of other installations, some clearly converted from Imperial designs. Others built from scratch using principles that defied conventional physics. "Every human you enslaved, every human you tortured, every human you broke and rebuilt for your purposes," Sarah continued. "They all carry the memories of their transformation. When they return to Earth, they bring those memories with them. They bring the knowledge of what we can become." Zara materialized on the bridge of the Dominion's edge, her ability to move through dimensions allowing her to appear anywhere she chose. The Imperial crew reached for their weapons but found them unresponsive. "Hello, Admiral," she said politely. "I wanted to deliver this message in person." Admiral Morgath tried to draw his sidearm, but his hand wouldn't obey him. Not because she was controlling him, he realized, but because his own instincts recognized that violence was pointless against this being. "The message is simple," Zara continued. "Humanity is withdrawing from Imperial space. We're taking our people, our resources, and our knowledge with us. You'll never see us again unless ... Unless what?" The Admiral managed to ask. Maria's image appeared on the main screen again, but now she wasn't alone. Hundreds of awakened humans stood behind her, representing all the worlds, all the stations, all the communities that had been transformed by their ordeal. "Unless you choose to join us," Maria said. "Not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals. As partners in building something better than an empire based on suffering and exploitation." Dr. Vexren, who had been brought aboard the flagship for debriefing, stepped forward. "The offer is genuine, Admiral. I've been studying the humans' neurological patterns. They're physically incapable of deception at their current level of evolution. If they say they want partnership, they mean it." Admiral Morgath looked around his bridge, seeing the confusion and fear in his crew's faces. The Empire had been built on the P. The golden light emanating from the 5 women grew brighter. Casting dancing shadows across the walls of Research Bay 7, Dr. Vexren stumbled backward, her instruments shorting out one by one as waves of energy pulsed through the room. Commander Zethkar drew his sidearm, but the weapon's power cell drained instantly when he tried to activate it. Sarah stood up from the examination table, her feet touching the floor with surprising gentleness. She felt different, stronger, more aware. Every molecule in her body hummed with energy she had never experienced before. She could sense the fear radiating from their captors, could feel the confusion and growing terror in their alien minds. "Impossible," Dr. Vexren whispered, backing against the wall. "Human physiology doesn't allow for this kind of energy manipulation. Our scans showed no latent abilities." Maria rose from her table, the golden glow around her intensifying. When she spoke, her voice carried the same otherworldly power as Sarah's. "Your scans were looking for the wrong things. You expected to find our weaknesses, our breaking point. Instead, you found our awakening." Lisa, Anna, and Zara joined them, forming a loose circle in the center of the chamber. The connection between them was visible now, streams of light that flowed from one to another, creating a web of power that made the air itself crackle with electricity. "Guards!" Commander Zethkar shouted into his communicator. "Emergency Protocol 7. Contain the subjects immediately." The chamber doors burst open, and a squad of Imperial soldiers rushed in with weapons raised. Their plasma rifles hummed to life, targeting systems locking onto the 5 women. But when they fired, something incredible happened. The energy bolts stopped in midair, floating like frozen lightning between the soldiers and their targets. Zara raised her hand, and the suspended plasma bolts reversed direction, flying back toward the guards. The soldiers dove for cover as their own weapons' fire scattered around the chamber, leaving scorch marks on the walls. "You tortured us for 47 minutes, Anna said, her quiet voice now carrying the weight of mountains. 47 minutes of agony, humiliation, and despair. Do you know what 47 minutes means to a human?" Commander Zethkar was trying to reach the emergency exit, but he found his path blocked by an invisible barrier. "It means nothing. You're animals. Resources to be used." 47 minutes, Lisa continued, her red hair flowing around her as energy currents moved through the air, "is how long it takes for human neural pathways to completely reorganize under extreme stress. It's how long our brains need to evolve new connections, new capabilities." Sarah stepped toward the commander, and with each step, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You see, Commander, humans have a unique trait among galactic species. When you push us to our absolute limit, when you bring us to the very edge of death and destruction, we don't just break. We become something more." Dr. Vexren was frantically trying to activate a recording device, her scientific mind still working despite her terror. "The subjects are displaying massive electromagnetic manipulation, localized gravity distortion, and what appears to be telepathic networking. This is unprecedented." "Document this," Maria said, turning her golden eyes toward the researcher. "Send it to your superiors. Let them know what happens when you underestimate humanity." More guards poured into the chamber, but they fared no better than the first group. Their weapons malfunctioned, their armor systems failed, and several found themselves floating helplessly in the air as Zara experimented with her newfound gravity manipulation. "The neural patterns we detected," Anna said. Walking over to Dr. Vexren's abandoned equipment, they weren't showing us breaking down. They were showing us breaking through. Every species you've tortured before had genetic limitations. Humans don't. She placed her hand on the torture device that had caused her so much pain, and it began to transform. The cold metal warmed and reshaped itself into something that looked almost organic. Where once there had been instruments of pain, now there were conduits of healing energy. Remarkable, Lisa observed, examining another piece of equipment. Their technology is impressive, but it's limited by their understanding of energy manipulation. They only know how to destroy and control. They never learned how to create and heal. Sarah walked over to Commander Zethkar, who was pressed against the wall, his black eyes wide with fear. "You wanted to understand human persistence," she said softly. "Let me explain it to you. When most species face overwhelming odds, they surrender or die. Humans face overwhelming odds and become overwhelming ourselves." The commander tried to speak, but found his voice caught in his throat. The presence of these transformed humans was unlike anything in his species' experience. They radiated power, but not the cold, mechanical power of Imperial technology. This was something organic, alive, and infinitely adaptable. "Please," Dr. Vexren finally managed to whisper. "We were following orders. This is how the Empire functions. We study lesser species to better understand our dominion." "Lesser species?" Maria laughed, and the sound echoed with harmonics that made the metal walls ring like bells. "Doctor, you've made a fundamental error in classification." Anna approached the researcher, her movements flowing like water. "You see, you assume that because humans are physically weaker, use simpler technology, and organize into smaller political units, we must be less evolved. But evolution isn't about becoming stronger or more technologically advanced. Evolution," Zara added, "is about adaptability. And humans are the most adaptable species in the galaxy." Lisa gestured toward the transformed torture equipment. "Your machines can only do what they were designed to do. Your soldiers can only follow their programming. Your entire civilization is built on rigid hierarchies and fixed functions." Sarah nodded. "But humans? We can become whatever we need to become. You needed us to be miners, so we learned to work in impossible conditions. You needed us to be test subjects, so we survived tortures that would kill any other species. And now that you need us to be your superiors, we've become that too." The implications of her words hit Commander Zethkar like a physical blow. The Empire had been collecting humans for decades, spreading them across dozens of star systems as workers, soldiers, and test subjects. If what these 5 were experiencing could happen to other humans... "Yes," Anna said, reading his thoughts as easily as looking at a book. "You're beginning to understand. Every human you've taken, every human you've pushed to their limits, every human who has suffered under Imperial rule for 47 minutes or more, they all have this potential." Dr. Vexren's recording device finally activated, and she began speaking rapidly into it. Research log, final entry. "Subjects have undergone radical transformation after 47 minutes of stress testing, displaying previously unknown abilities including energy manipulation, technological interfacing, and apparent telepathic communication. Recommend immediate evacuation of all Imperial personnel from human-populated areas." "Too late for that, Doctor," Maria said gently. "The process has already begun." As if to confirm her words, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed in the corridors, and the voices of panicked Imperial officers echoed from the communication systems. "Mining Level 7 reports equipment malfunction and worker uprising. Hydroponics bay has been sealed from the inside. Guards unable to breach. Maintenance sector reports total system failure. Human workers have taken control of life support." Sarah smiled, feeling the connections spreading throughout the station like a vast neural network. Every human who had been pushed beyond their limits, every human who had found that spark of transformation within themselves, was now part of something larger. "The 47-minute rule isn't just about individuals," she explained to their captors. "It's about our species as a whole. You've been testing us, pushing us, torturing us across the galaxy for years. And now, all at once, we're reaching our collective breakthrough moment. Lisa walked over to the chamber's main control panel and placed her hand on it. Instantly, she could access the station's entire network, feel every system and every connection. Your computers are so primitive, she observed. They process information linearly, one calculation at a time. Human brains process millions of parallel thoughts simultaneously. When we interface with your systems, the lights in the chamber shifted from harsh imperial white to a warm, golden glow. Throughout the station, similar changes were occurring as humans took control of every major system. We can improve them, Anna finished. Make them more efficient, more responsive, more alive. Commander Zethkar finally found his voice. This is impossible. No species can evolve this rapidly. It violates every principle of biology. Zara laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Commander, you made one critical error in your understanding of human biology. We didn't evolve this rapidly. We were always capable of this. We just needed the right catalyst. Fear, Maria explained. Desperation. The absolute certainty that we had nothing left to lose. Most species, when faced with extinction, simply accept their fate. Humans refuse to accept extinction under any circumstances. So we adapt, Sarah said. We become whatever we need to become to survive, to protect each other, to ensure our species' continuous scientific fascination overriding. The mining station floated in the darkness between stars, its hull scarred by years of cosmic dust and solar winds. Inside, the air recyclers hummed their eternal song while 300 humans worked the deep shafts, pulling precious metals from the asteroid's core. They had been here for 2 years now, ever since the Galactic Empire decided that human hands were better at delicate extraction work than their mechanical alternatives. Sarah wiped the sweat from her forehead as she guided the plasma cutter through another vein of platinum. At 19, she had already spent a third of her life in the mines. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her blue eyes had developed a sharp focus that came from working in dangerous conditions. Beside her, Maria operated the collection unit, her dark skin glistening under the artificial lights. The two had become close friends during their time here, sharing stories of Earth and dreams of freedom. Another good haul today, Maria said, checking the readings on her scanner. The Imperials should be happy with this batch. Sarah nodded but said nothing. The Imperials were never truly happy with anything. The tall, pale beings with their elongated limbs and cold black eyes treated humans like useful animals. They provided food, shelter, and basic medical care, but nothing more. The humans were property, nothing else mattered to their captors, above them. In the station's command center, Commander Zethkar reviewed the daily reports. His species, the Veltar, had ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 1,000 years. They were efficient, logical, and completely without what humans called compassion. To Zethkar, the humans were an interesting species, physically weak but surprisingly adaptable. Their emotional responses were fascinating to study, which is why he had volunteered to oversee this particular mining operation. Commander, his aide. Sub-Commander Nixtal approached with a datapad. The research division has sent new orders. Zethkar took the device and read the encrypted message. His thin lips curved into what might have been a smile on a human face, but on his angular features it looked more like a grimace. Excellent, he said. They want to expand the behavioral studies. Select 5 female subjects from the mining crews. Young ones between 18 and 25. The researchers believe this age group will provide the most interesting data. Nixtal nodded. What type of studies, sir? Pain tolerance, psychological breaking points, recovery rates from trauma. The standard research protocol. Zethkar set down the datapad. Begin the selections immediately. Transport them to Research Bay 7. Down in the mines, Sarah and Maria finished their shift and headed to the communal dining area. The food was nutritious but tasteless, designed to keep humans healthy and working, nothing more. As they sat at their usual table, they were joined by three other young women. Lisa, a red-haired girl from the hydroponics bay. Anna, a quiet brunette who worked in maintenance. And Zara, a fierce-looking woman with short black hair who managed waste recycling. "Did you hear about the new ship that docked today?" Lisa asked in a whisper. "It's from the research division." Anna looked worried. "Research division? What do they want here?" "Nothing good," Zara said grimly. "My supervisor mentioned something about behavioral studies. They're going to experiment on some of us." The five women exchanged nervous glances. They had all heard stories about Imperial research facilities, places where subjects went in but never came out the same. Some never came out at all. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of 6 Imperial guards. The tall, armored figures moved with mechanical precision, their weapons humming with energy. The dining hall fell silent as every human turned to look. Sarah Chun, Maria Santos, Lisa O'Brien, Anna Kowalski, Zara Hassan. The lead guard announced, his voice filtered through his helmet speakers. "You will come with us immediately." Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. Those were their names, all 5 of them? This couldn't be a coincidence. "Where are you taking them?" asked Tom, an older man who had been something like a father figure to Sarah. The guard turned his helmet toward Tom. "Interference with Imperial operations is punishable by immediate termination. Return to your meal." Tom's face went pale, but he sat back down. There was nothing he could do. The guards were armed, and resistance would only mean death for everyone in the room. The 5 women stood slowly. Sarah reached over and squeezed Maria's hand. "It'll be okay," she whispered. Though she didn't believe it herself, they were marched through the station's corridors, past areas they had never seen before. The walls here were cleaner, more sterile. They passed laboratories filled with strange equipment and holding cells that made Sarah's skin crawl. Finally, they arrived at Research Bay 7. The bay was a large, circular room with 5 examination tables arranged around a central observation platform. Each table was equipped with restraints and surrounded by medical equipment that looked more like torture devices. On the observation platform stood Commander Zethkar and 2 researchers in white coats. "Welcome," Zethkar said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "You 5 have been selected for a special honor. You will contribute to our understanding of human psychology and physiology." Dr. Vexerin, the lead researcher, stepped forward. She was even taller than the commander, with pale, almost translucent skin and eyes that seemed to glow in the artificial light. "The procedures will be ... uncomfortable, but your species has shown remarkable resilience. We expect you to survive the initial phases." Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. "What are you going to do to us?" "Curiosity," Dr. Vexerin noted to her assistant. "Mark that down. Subject shows inquiry behavior even under stress." She turned back to Sarah. "We will test your pain thresholds, your breaking points, your recovery rates. We want to understand what makes humans so ... persistent." The guards forced each woman onto an examination table and activated the restraints. The metal bands closed around their wrists and ankles with a soft hum, making escape impossible. Sarah tried to pull against them, but they were designed to hold beings much stronger than humans. "Please," Anna whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We haven't done anything wrong." "Right and wrong are human concepts," Commander Zethkar replied coldly. "You exist to serve the Empire. This is how you serve now." Dr. Vexerin activated a holographic display that showed various instruments and procedures. "We will begin with basic pain response testing. The neural stimulators will send controlled electrical impulses through your nervous systems. We need to map your pain receptors accurately." Sarah watched in horror as robotic arms descended from the ceiling, each one equipped with different instruments. Some looked like medical scanners, others like electrodes, and a few she couldn't identify at all. The women began to struggle against their restraints, but the metal bands didn't budge. "The beauty of human subjects," Dr. Vexerin continued, "is your emotional responses. Unlike other species we've studied, you maintain hope even in hopeless situations. This makes the data much more interesting. The first electrode touched Sarah's arm, and she screamed as pain shot through her entire body. It felt like being struck by lightning, but the sensation went on and on. Through her agony, she could hear her friends screaming too, their voices echoing through the chamber. Fascinating, Dr. Vexrin observed, watching the data scroll across her screens. The human pain response triggers a massive release of adrenaline and other stress hormones. But look at this. Even under extreme duress, the subjects are showing protective behavior toward each other. It was true. Despite her own agony, Sarah was trying to turn her head to check on Maria. Lisa was attempting to speak words of comfort between her screams. Even in this hell, they were still trying to take care of each other. The torture continued for what felt like hours. The researchers tested different types of pain, different intensities, different combinations. They monitored brain activity, hormone levels, and cellular response. The 5 young women endured needle-sharp electrical shocks, burning sensations that felt like acid on their skin, and crushing pressure that made their bones ache between sessions. Dr. Vexrin would make notes and adjust her instruments. The human pain tolerance is remarkably high, she observed. Much higher than our previous subjects. And the psychological resilience is extraordinary. During one of these breaks, Sarah managed to catch Maria's eye. Her friend's face was pale and streaked with tears, but her eyes still held defiance. "Stay strong," Sarah mouthed silently. Maria nodded slightly, then looked at the other 3 women. They were all conscious, all still fighting. Whatever these monsters were doing to them, they hadn't broken yet. Interesting, Commander Zethkar noted from his observation post. After 43 minutes of continuous testing, the subjects are still showing coordinated behavior. Most species would have entered complete psychological shutdown by now. Dr. Vexrin glanced at her chronometer. Yes, we're approaching the theoretical limit for human endurance. According to our data, they should begin experiencing complete neurological breakdown within the next few minutes. Sarah felt darkness creeping in at the edges of her vision. The pain had been replaced by a strange numbness, and she could feel her body shutting down. But somewhere deep inside, she felt something else, a warmth that had nothing to do with the torture equipment. It started small, like a spar,